What up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Matt Wyatt. I know I'm a little bit behind on reviewing movies lately. I just got a lot of stuff going on. I've been catching up on some shows that I've missed out that I wanted to watch. So recently, I went out to go see the movie that I was really looking forward to, and it's Transformers 1. It's directed by Josh Cooley, which he was best known of doing the story of Toy Story 4. He also did the screenplay for Inside Out 1. So this movie is a prequel story, and it's an origin story of the exploring of how Optimus Prime and Megatron, who were once best friends and later became sworn enemies that we now know in the franchise. And it's something that they've never explored before in this franchise. And it's not connected to the live action Transformers movies. It's definitely a reboot, but it's also a prequel story. And I'm not gonna lie, when they first announced that they were gonna do this movie, I was not very enthusiastic about it, but I kept an open mind with this movie. And I was never like the biggest Transformers fan out there. I didn't like grow up watching Transformers as a kid, and this is now the 40th anniversary of the Transformers, and it started off back in the mid 80s, and it became a great following, and it became one of the hottest selling toys in Hasbro company. And my first exposure to the Transformers was the original Michael Bay's live action Transformers movie. I remember at the time loving that film when that came out in the cinema, and yeah, I will say that as time went on, I don't think the film aged well, but I still liked it for what it was from the first movie at the time when I first saw it. And the sequels of Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon, I drank the Kool-Aid and I fooled myself into loving those movies. And then as I grew as an adult, I realized that this film did not hold up and it was really bad. I mean, Dark of the Moon is not as bad as Revenge of the Fallen, but it's still a bad film as a whole. Then Age of Extinction, which I was excited for it when the trailers came out and Mark Wahlberg was going to be in it. And yeah, we already know how that film turned out. It became a big pile of steaming crap. It was garbage. I was losing faith in the franchise. I tapped out. By the time that the movie The Last Night, the last Michael Bay's Transformers movie came out, I skipped it in the cinema. I didn't watch it until it came out on streaming on Hulu at the time. And I already knew what movie I'm getting myself into because Michael Bay stopped caring about making a good Transformers movie. And it was slowly dying for this IP. Sure, it made a lot of money, but then it started to decrease when the latest Transformers movie called The Last Night came out, and it still made money, but it made less than the last movie did. Then when Paramount announced that they were going to do a Bumblebee movie, which it was supposed to be, but taking back in time in the 80s. Originally, they were going to make this as a prequel to the Michael Bay Transformers movie, but then they decided that they're not going to canonize it. So they're sort of rebooting it, really. And I was not that enthusiastic about that movie until I heard that Travis Knight was going to be directing it, and he came off of the heels of the movie called Kubo and the Two Strings, which I adore that movie. So I kept an open mind, and then I surprisingly loved that film a lot more than I thought it would. And at the time when that came out, I consider that to be the best Transformers movie. Then Rise of the Beast came out a few years later, and I will say that I really like that film. It's not as good as Bumblebee, but it was a decent follow-up to Bumblebee. But it was really its own thing. And the problem I had with it is that it kind of went back to the same trope that we've seen many times before in the Michael Bay's Transformers movie. And look, it's not as bad as the Michael Bay Transformers movie. It is a far better movie than the other ones, but it was still a little bit underwhelming as a whole. And it underperformed at the box office, and people were starting to lose faith in the franchise. Then they announced that they were going to do an animated Transformers 1, and a lot of people were skeptical about it because they have Chris Hemsworth playing the iconic role of Optimus Prime. They had Brian Tyree Henry playing Megatron. So they did not bring back the OG voice actors to play the role like Peter Cullen's Optimus Prime, because when you hear Optimus Prime's voice, you think of Peter Cullen because that he is the voice of Optimus Prime. And a lot of people were very skeptical. And the trailers hit online, and I was one of the people that really dug it, and I kept an open mind. And it didn't blow my socks off, but a lot of people were very mixed on it. They thought it was going to be too silly, kid friendly, that it was going to be too much of a knockoff from Pixar or DreamWorks vibe to it. But then the social media embargo dropped a couple of months before this movie's release. They showed it to the people at a fan screening, and they came out of raving about that movie and saying that this is the best Transformers movie they have ever made. They were going nuts and talking about it. And then as time went on, when they were showing more screenings, it gave me hope and it got me more excited for this film. And when I went to go see the Transformers 1 at a fan event, they were handing out a bunch of four character posters of Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, Megatron, and Alita 1. And they were giving out a free first issue comic book of the original Transformers comic book, and it got me even more excited for the film. And after coming out of the theater, I'm going to say that I completely agree that this is the best Transformers movie they have ever made. Don't let the trailers fool you. Don't let the tone like ruin your excitement. And also, don't let the Chris Hemsworth or Tyree Henry turn you off and get you less excited for these characters, because they did a fantastic job of exploring the evolution of their friendship. Because Optimus Prime was once called Orion Pax and Megatron was called D16 before they even got their names. And they were just a bunch of mind workers who had been best buddies for years, and they had each other's backs. Orion Pax was always been a rule breaker, and he's been always trying to get him in D16 out of the mining works and show them that they are more than that, because they were born without these powers to have the ability to transform. And they know that they are more than meets the eye. Yeah, I know, no pun intended. And I thought they definitely did a great job of the evolution of the friendship. And yes, the concept of of these iconic characters becoming friends who will become sworn enemies has been done like that before. You've seen that happen in the DC show with Smallville with Clark Kent and Lex Luthor. You've seen that in the Star Wars prequel trilogy with Anakin and Obi-Wan. Then you saw that in X-Men First Class with Charles Xavier and Magneto. Sure, the concept has been done like that before, but they used it very well. And here's one of the reasons why I love this movie so much. Here's one, you focused on the Transformers characters, because majority of the time when you saw the live action Transformers movie, you barely get any focus on the Autobots or any of the Transformers characters. They felt very one-dimensional. The only leading star was Optimus Prime and Bumblebee. They were the only characters that had a little bit more focus than the others. They felt like the rest of them felt very one-dimensional, and they were very annoying, and they were just about just throwing out quippy one-liners and throwing jokes and without any characterization. This film did that. They made them feel like real characters. The world of Cybertron, I loved it. It felt like a living planet. It was something I had been waiting for a long time for them to actually make a movie that revolves around it and not constantly keep going back to Earth every time they make a movie out of it. They got away from the human characters. They focused on the Transformers, and it was perfect. It was amazing. And don't expect this to right away that they're going to become sword enemies right away through the midpoint of the film. It is a long origin story. And yes, spoiler, they do become sworn enemies, and they did it well. I love the banter with the four characters, with D16, Orion Pax, Chris Hemsworth, and Brian Tyree Henry. I thought that they really brought those characters to life, and they took the character and made it their own. And also a new addition to the character, Alita 1, played by Scarlett Johansson, who's a character who's all about following the rules and doing everything by the book. I thought she was fantastic. She never felt one-dimensional. She was a badass, and she was funny, and she was a great addition to the group. And Bumblebee, that is voiced by Keegan-Michael Key, played voice Bumblebee. And when you look back and watch the previous live action Transformers movies, you never get a chance to see him have a personality, because throughout the movie, he damaged his vocals in battle. And he only was able to communicate through the radio. And the only time that you get to hear his voice was through the recording during the climactic finale in the Transformers The Last Night. And then when you watch Bumblebee and the opening of the film before he lost his vocal cords, it was voiced by Dylan O'Brien, and you get to have a glimpse to see his personality before his vocal cords are gone and damaged. This one, they completely did something different with it, and it became a change of pace. At first, I thought he was going to be very annoying, that he was going to be too comedic, that he was just thrown in as a comic relief. It did not feel that way at all, even though he throws a lot of quippy one-liners and jokes at times, but he felt like a real character, and I loved it. And they threw this one little Easter egg joke from the skit of Key and Peele, the most iconic joke one-liner of the whole series that became a big trend and a big meme. You had to watch it in context to spot that Easter egg. I thought they threw it in and it was so good. It was hilarious. The jokes and the humor worked very well. When people think that there's going to be jokes in the film, they think it's going to be automatically bad. And look, there's nothing wrong with throwing jokes in the movie if you use it well. It's all about how you use it well and make it very subtle and not shove it down people's throats. Because let's be honest, because here's the thing. If you think that this is going to be a kid-friendly movie, it's not. This movie is a little bit more darker than what I expected it to be. It got very dramatic and very heavy at times when it needed to be, and emotional too. I didn't expect this movie to be a little bit emotional in this film. Then they were able to lighten the humor with the jokes in the film. I thought that the John Hamm, who plays Sentinel Prime, I thought he played a pivotal role. I thought he was incredible in the movie, and I love the Shockwave and Soundwave as an addition. I thought they were so funny. I thought that Steve Buscemi, who played Starscream, was absolutely was gold in the movie. Even though you don't get a lot of him in the film, and you start to see why he got his voice all messed up and why he talks weird than he does. And look, the visual effects, the animation was very impressive. I loved it. And if you weren't so big on the animation at first before you see this film, I guarantee that this will grow on you. And when you got to the point when Orion Pex and D16, when they become Optimus Prime and Megatron and they become sworn enemies, you don't want them to not like throw away their friendship. You still wanted them to be friends. They wanted to be brothers. And it was so good of how they did it, how they were able to transition from Orion Pex becoming Optimus Prime, becoming reborn as the character that we know, and from D16 becoming a Megatron. They did it so well in the sequence. That was the best part of the movie, which I won't go into it too much, but it worked, and the finale really delivered. I thought the action, the set pieces, the spectacle was absolutely incredible. My only negative is that I wish that the movie was longer. It was a roller coaster ride that I did not want to get off. They did something that we've been asking for a long time, is that we want Cybertron to feel like a character. We want to feel like we're in that world and transported, and why Cybertron matters. Because for the franchise, Optimus Prime was all about bringing peace to the planet and bringing and sharing the energy to the world, while Megatron got lost in his own madness and became a tyrant and wanted to become a destroyer and got lost in his path. They made Megatron very complex. They never made a twirling mustache obvious villain. He had a case to make. He had a reason for why he became that person that we know today. And I thought it worked. The writing was very good. I was so transported when they went off on the adventure to find something that they can reach their potential. And I thought that Laurence Fishburne, who plays Alpha Tron, was absolutely great. He's the one who passes on to the power to these four characters to reach their potential, to transform into these vehicles and have the power. And I thought it was great of how they were fleshing out the story. Oh man, there's so much more I want to say, but I don't want to spoil it too much. But you already know where the film is going to go. And stay for the post-credit scenes. There is a mid-credit scene and there's an end credit scene. I hope that this movie does well. Overall, this is one of my favorite movies of the year so far. I will stand by it that this is the best Transformers movie they have ever made, and I hope it does well at the box office. I've heard it's projecting like 40 million on opening weekend. I could be wrong, but I hope you guys go out and see it in the cinema with an audience. It's definitely something that kids and adults of the OG fans can enjoy. You can enjoy it with the family, and adults can enjoy it itself because it does have a lot of mature themes in the film. And I thought it really worked. They really put a lot of heart into it, and you could tell by watching this movie. I want more. It was so good of how they were able to show you how the Autobots and the Decepticons were born. And by the time you get to the end of the film, they did it well. It was very well executed. I hope that Paramount does a trilogy. I want them to do an isolated trilogy that's completely outside of the live action Transformers movies and let it be its own thing. That's what I want. The critics are really enjoying it, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of you guys who haven't seen it yet, I think you're going to be satisfied with it if you're a fan of the Transformers franchise. And even for some of you out there who are very skeptical of it, look, you got to put that aside and not compare to these voice actors, to the OG voice actors that played Megatron and Optimus Prime. What they did, they took the character and made it their own. And it was great to see Chris Hemsworth and Scarlett Johansson work together for the first time in a long time since Avengers Endgame. And it never felt like that they were just throwing out some random big stars just for the sake of it. They were the great choice, and I want to see this franchise continue on. I hope you guys give this movie a chance and go out and support this movie and go see it with an audience. You're going to have a great laugh. You're going to be emotional. You're going to be very well satisfied by the end of the film. I highly recommend it. So, my final verdict for right now is going to be 9.5 out of 10 rating. When I go see this movie again, I might change my rating to a 10 out of 10. The more I watch this movie, I might think that this movie is a masterpiece, because the only negative I can think of at the top of my head is that I wish that the film was a little bit longer. I did not want it to leave Cybertron. I did not want to leave these characters. But that's the only thing I can come up with at the top of my head. But I'm definitely going to go see this movie again in the theater. It was a great experience for me. And guys, for those of you who have seen Transformers 1, what did you think of this film? Did it live up to your expectations, or were you someone out there that thought, no, it wasn't for me. I gave the movie a chance, but it wasn't my cup of tea. Let me know your take in the comment section below. Make sure you hit the like button and make sure you hit that subscribe button for more of my content. My goal is to reach 500 subscribers, and if you want to follow my social media links, the link tree will be down in the description down below. Guys, thank you so much for watching my video. I really appreciate it. It really means a lot. I hope you guys have a great day, great evening, wherever you're from, and stay tuned for more of my content.